This episode is sponsored by Conjure Tea. Founded by chef Shania Thomas Floyd, Conjure Tea taps into her background as a pastry chef to bring a unique, delicious approach to tea. Look no further than their tea offerings to find delicious blends from Lunar, an herbal tisane with blueberry, lavender, and vanilla, to Decadence, an Earl Grey blend with rose, strawberry, and cocoa nibs. The thing I love about Conjure Tea is that they're bringing unique, delicious flavors that I've never had before. My favorite of theirs is Purge Me, an organic bancha green tea with pineapple, coconut, and so much more. It has the flavor you want from a green tea with the unique and delicious combination of fruit-filled ingredients with a natural detoxifying quality. The company has been kind enough to give 15% off your first online order to all Steep Conversations listeners by using code STEEP15 on conjuretea.com. That's promo code STEEP15 to get 15% off your first order at conjuretea.com.
What happened was I did stand up for the first time.
Yeah.
I felt like I had a professional orgasm, which was basically a regular orgasm, but I was 100% sure that it happened.
That's incredible.
Don't you remember when the Gary Shandling documentary was like new?
Loved that documentary.
Yeah, me too. And we talked about it. Do you remember this?
Vaguely. Tell me more.
We talked about it and you were like really blown away by how Gary Shandling's journals suggested that his real North Star was like truth and enlightenment and stuff like that. And you said to me at that time, which I hope is okay to share,
Please.
You were like, I don't think I've ever thought of it that way. And I remember thinking, okay, that's interesting. And it's not to say that there's a right and wrong or that Gary Shandling's right or whatever, but it was interesting to me at that time that you were so moved by it and that you were like, and I'm really different from it. Especially because like I knew you as a person and also at an open mic for the most part.
Sure.
Like we knew each other when we were like really working stuff out. And so I feel like sometimes with knowing someone from an open mic, you don't necessarily know what they think of their comedy.
Absolutely.
You know, because you're like really working it out. And that was like an open mic that did not matter.
It's so funny. We talked about that open mic probably like 3 days ago. Fail safe is the wrong word, but like even if you did bad in that room, it didn't feel bad.
Yeah.
The stakes were low enough that like when you were there, usually there was someone who was nice. Yeah. Whether it was, I think his name was Rory maybe, who was behind the counter.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There was like him, anytime you were hosting, there was always a friendly face such that even if you did terrible, someone was there to be like, hey, I loved that tag, or it's good to see you, or like
it's
something.
Interesting. I don't even think, and I try to be this way always.
Yeah.
But I also pepper my schedule with enough shows that I am like, it doesn't matter kind of thing.
Because of quantity, there's so much quantity, it doesn't matter.
Well, yeah. And I want to disassociate entirely from how things go.
The outcome doesn't matter.
Correct.
So some people don't know this, but like I saw your schedule coming back to LA. And by the way, thank you for fitting us in. But I saw your schedule coming back to LA. It scared me. Like it made me nervous.
Sorry.
No, gosh, not at all. The sheer number of shows gave me some anxiety because I'm like, oh my God, that's like a lot to do in a little, I think it's not that much time. Is it like 3 weeks, 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
But the other thing I thought about, to your point, is I was like, you know what? If you have, let's say, I don't know the number, but let's say it's like 20 shows.
Yeah.
You have 20 shows?
It was 26.
26.
Yeah.
If you bomb 6 of those, if you bomb 8 of those, doesn't matter.
Yeah. But also, what's a bomb?
I don't know anymore because I quote unquote bombed the other day and I wasn't even thinking about the bomb. I was more thinking about something else in that moment. And I think that I wasn't present with everybody, and I don't care about whether it bombed or not. I care about in my head, I was like, whether or not I was able to kind of like be in the moment with those people.
Sure, but isn't it the case that if and when one is in the moment with those people, the likelihood of bombing is really minimal?
That's why I think I viewed it as a bomb, is because I don't think I was there.
Okay, sure. We all know, I guess, what a bomb is. So my intention in asking the question is not to be like cross-examining or whatever. But I just mean, I'm doing a show tonight that I did bomb when I did it in whatever year, 2018 or 19, like the last time that I did that show.
Yeah, sure.
And the story and joke about that bomb is a joke that I say routinely now.
On stage?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it is funny.
Yeah.
And also stand-up it's a vehicle to self-expression.
Sure.
And so there's so many ways to look at any discipline, craft, or art form as like a set of things to master, right? Mm-hmm. And I think it's like entirely missing the point to look at them that way. Because it's like, sure, you could try to be the best artist of whatever sort. And like for a time, it'll serve you to know the rules and master the rules and like go through a sort of Dreyfus model of mastery.
Yeah.
And we all are in every single, I think anything, trying to be the most us at that thing.
Yes.
You could love so many different kinds of stand-up, so many different kinds of visual art. But if someone is imitating Picasso, they're not going to be good at anything other than imitating Picasso. Whereas if they're trying to just be themselves, that's the thing that's going to be good.
You know, I listened to an interview with Jerry Seinfeld who goes, all that matters is the laughs. That's all that matters. And that's totally fine. And I understand where he's coming from. For me, what I realized is like, no, what matters to me is giving people a unique experience with whether it's one moment or the whole set where we're just there.
Well, I think it also can be both.
It can be.
I don't know Jerry Seinfeld, but I'm guessing that as a person, he's probably pretty punchline heavy.
Yeah, I would guess.
And so I think that like perhaps the translation of him off stage to him on stage, maybe like a cleaner one-to-one to integrate those two. And so that, you know, his really punchline heavy type of way is something that he got to fast.
Yeah.
And also, of course, like everybody knows about his writing schedule. So like maybe he also accelerated the extent to which he could integrate his onstage self to his offstage self in that way. And the reason that I'm saying that as a metric, the one-to-one integration, is because I don't believe we, the public or whatever, truly take someone in until they're, well, I don't know. Now I've said that and I'm like, Ellen was mean off stage. And so like, that's not a one-to-one integration, but maybe the construction of the argument is wrong. I'm wrong, but
I've never seen someone that quickly be like, there's a possibility that I'm not right.
Most God, I live my life like that.
Oh my God. Being in a relationship, I've discovered I am wrong way more often than I thought I was.
Sure.
Now I am much better at it. But at the beginning, I was like, I might be. She's like, what might you be? I'm like, wrong.
Yeah.
And I just like, you know.
Well, I mean, I gave up a lot of stuff to be this person. And so I feel like it's like, sure, I quit law, but I also quit being so invested in being right.
You know, I want to chase that down for a second. Before we do that, I just want to briefly say for everyone listening, we are drinking strawberry pomegranate tea. It is burn and blend strawberry pomegranate.
If it burns, it's your fault.
I will take that responsibility.
It's not going to burn.
It's good, right?
Yeah, it's very good.
This one also is really good as an iced tea, the strawberry pomegranate. But if you're having it hot, those at home, steep it boiling. And for something like this, because it's herbal, steep as long as you want. I did this for about 6 minutes.
Oh, yeah. I like steep forever.
Which is fine. Like what drives me crazy about tea is that a lot of people are like, well, you have to drink it this way. And this is what you're supposed to steep at. And this is how long you're supposed to steep. And I'm like, sure.
Okay, so let's take it from there because that's a good analogy. It's the same, Josh. It's the same conversation that we're having about stand-up. Like there's not a way. The idea of like being your most truthful self on stage, it's not that it's the only way. For me, I just come back to if I'm not going to do that, I could have stayed teaching law.
Well, that's the other thing I think about. What sacrifices do any of us make to be the most authentic version of ourselves, whether it is a sacrifice in that moment or a life sacrifice? Like I work a day job, which I'm very grateful for, but I am fascinated by the idea and potential of doing comedy full time, right? I don't do that right now. I cannot financially make that a viable decision. And what's really interesting, and this goes to maybe some deep psychological stuff I need to work out, is that, you know, I said to someone, I was like, if I left the company, who's going to hire me? and someone's like, you've been at your company for 11 years.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm sorry, you don't think you could get hired? And in my head, I go, I don't know if they're still thrilled with the fact that they hired me 11 years ago. And they're like, you've been promoted, haven't you?
Yeah.
And I was like, sure. And they're like, what is it inside that you truly don't?
I get it, Josh. I mean, I had tenure, and every single day that I walked to my office was worried they would change the lock.
Even when you had tenure?
Yep.
Was there a process for you to say, that, like, I need to be able to, whether it's a skill set or an accomplishment level or something, to be able to say, I am where I need to be to feel comfortable saying I'm going to walk away from law?
No.
You were just like, you woke up one day and you go, yeah, I'm ready. Or maybe you weren't and you did it anyway.
Yeah. What happened was I did stand up for the first time.
Yeah.
I felt like I had a professional orgasm, which was basically a regular orgasm, but I was 100% sure that it happened. And the next morning,
That's incredible.
I was just like, okay, well, I'm a celebrity, clearly.
Yeah, obviously.
In my head, I had performed to like Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
It was like a smelly equivalent of a camp bunk.
I don't even care. I'm into this.
Right.
Yeah.
But like that was the fumes I was running on the morning after.
Yeah.
And I just felt it. And then about a year and a half later, so I had tenure, which is relevant because I want to brag. No, because I
do that too.
But it's relevant because my school was giving buyout packages to everybody who had tenure because they had some, I don't know, in the dean's mind at the time, like a budget moment or whatever. Yeah. And that move is like designed to get old people to leave. And at the time I wasn't old. Now I am.
I think we're similar in age, so please don't say
I'm
that.
42.
Yeah.
I will tell anybody who will listen. I
sure.
think because in Hollywood, you're not supposed to say your age. And I'm like, what?
That makes no sense. I'm 35. I have no problem sharing it.
Yeah. So I'm older. So anyway, as someone older.
As my elder. Yeah.
But yeah, so at the time I was 33 and I just felt like I was like, whatever that was last night was amazing. And if I could do it forever, I want to. And then a year and a half later, I got a buyout package because of this like budget moment, but it wasn't like enough money to never work again or to never worry again or whatever. It was just like enough money that it was a sign to like do something that I already was thinking of doing. And also there's like kind of the nuts version of this story, which is, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
So the morning after, I had this daydream that I was a guest on The Tonight Show.
Great.
And I was already on the couch, like I already skipped the stand-up part or whatever. Yeah. And I was asked the question like, so, and by the way, this is my 7th year of teaching. That's relevant for the story. And I'm asked, so Liz, you were a law professor for a decade and then you just like decided to do stand-up comedy. And I was like, actually, Jimmy, it was 9 years. That was the line. Actually, Jimmy, it was 9 years. And after having that daydream, I was like, I think that might be funny. Like, I know I just started being funny last night. You didn't laugh, which no one does. But I was like, I think that's funny.
Yeah.
To round down where it's not to my advantage from 10 to 9, only a lawyer would do that. And I was like, this is just like really gold. And I told my mom, and my mom was like, Elizabeth, don't quit your job for this joke that's not even funny. And I was like, okay, fine. But I had the vision in my head of this thing on the couch with the 10 to 9.
Yeah.
Okay. Then when I got that phone call from the dean the next year, which was my 8th year, that phone call was like all of these different retirement options, basically, that they don't want to put on paper because they don't want some website to be like, this school's in trouble.
Right.
Right. Because they're giving buyout packages. And so I was like writing it all in my notebook when I'm on the phone with the dean. And so it's like all these different options, like you go halftime, a quarter time, an eighth time, whatever. And then it's like, or you could quit at the end of this year, which would be my 8th year. And then the last option was, or somebody could decide to quit at the end of next year. And I was like, it's 9 years. That was the moment that I decided to leave. Then the dean was like, because I knew him, like we taught together, he was my friend. And he was like, Liz, what? And I was like, he's like, you don't have to pick any of them. I know. I'm like, I know. And then I just told him this story. And then he was like, that's nuts, but it's very you. And that was how I left. So it wasn't some, you're doing well enough, you're anything enough. I was totally delusional. I guess had some vague sense that I would have enough money, kind of, but it's not like I did the math on spreadsheets, like discounting for present value or anything like that. Like,
you already just went over my head with that.
But I wasn't like projecting about like how okay I would be for however long. After my last paycheck was when I moved to LA for 3 years. And I was like, I'm going to move to LA for 3 years.
Now, this sounds relevant, but I'm asking selfishly for my own reasons.
Sure.
Were you with Karen at this point?
Well, I met Karen right before I moved to LA.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for those listening, so Karen is your wife.
Yeah.
The reason I ask some of these things is because, I think about, and again, this is very selfish, but like I think about my own situation and I'm like, okay, like Jess once said to me, I think that you are very good at comedy.
Yeah.
I sometimes think about what would happen if you were dedicating your full self to it.
Yeah.
She goes, I wonder what would happen. And I'm not saying that I think anything miraculous might happen or it might not. Personally, I think it would. She goes, but more importantly, I wonder how you would change as a person, how you would feel if you were doing all that.
Yeah.
And on the one hand, you have that. And on the other hand, I think to myself, well, I now have somebody that when I make choices, I'm making choices for us. I'm not making choices for me. And hopefully, anyone's partner, you, Karen, me, Jess, hopefully they, our partners feel the same way.
Yeah.
When they're making decisions. So I think to myself, I'm like, well, if I ever left my day job, I would be scared because that's a decision that would affect Jess.
Sure.
My income. It's not like all of a sudden comedy will be like, okay, so what were you making before?
Right.
We'll just get you that again. How did you're leaving this steadiness. You had just met Karen.
Yeah.
Did you have any of those fears?
No, because I was dumb. I feel like
Oh my God.
No, I am dumb.
I don't agree with that.
No.
Go ahead.
Believe me, I'm smart enough to know that I'm dumb. Because
Dunning-Kruger. Sure.
what's that?
Dunning-Kruger is essentially you need to be great at something to be able to know what it is to be great.
Oh.
So, and likewise, the dumbest people are so dumb they don't know they're dumb.
Yeah, totally. Right. So somewhere in there.
Me
I don't
too.
know. Yeah. I mean it because I didn't think that there was any sort of process. I guess I just didn't know. I was just like, no, I think I'm going to have a television show. I think I'm going to be in it. I think I'm going to write it. I think I'm going to do comedy.
In the moment, like as you had gave your thing, you go, I can do all these things.
Yeah. And now that I'm deep in it, I have lots of moments. I never regret leaving because I don't. But I have moments where I'm like, I don't know if I believe in myself enough, or, I watch so many defrauding shows.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I watched a bunch of those, like the Tinder Swindler and the Anna Delvey thing and, the
Inventing
Elizabeth
Anna.
Holmes and whatever.
Yeah.
But what can we learn from all of these stories? Like all of these people believed in themselves so hard that these people gave them cash.
Yep.
Because of their lies. But if they didn't believe those lies, they wouldn't have gotten the cash in the numbers that causes these to be stories.
They had to be also delusional.
Correct.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to defraud anybody. I'm actually trying to be the most truthful that I can be and get to some core of myself. So it's actually the opposite of defrauding anybody.
Yeah.
And yet I am worried that I'm not good enough. At what? Being me? It makes no sense.
I need to be, I've never thought I'd say this sentence. I need to be more Anna Delvey. And I need to kind of in my head go, no, like I am good and they wanted me and I want them and it's a happy thing. And why do I feel there's no power structure
But
here?
that's the thing is that it is about your inner way of thinking about it because that's the part that it's like, it doesn't matter about the tenure, the promotions. It's you that's worried that and it was me. So I don't mean to put this on you.
Please do.
That they changed the lock at the last minute. I still have that kind of narrative sometimes because I just am a nervous person.
Yeah.
The idea of impending doom is like so natural to me.
You're a New York Jew. Like that's what we all have.
Right. I mean, I have 4 out of 4 Holocaust survivors in my family.
Yeah.
So whatever that gives you kind of going down the line and, whatever, just a lot of trauma and stuff. And
Sure.
so I'm used to that. So the idea of like, oh yeah, everything's fine is like so foreign to me and feels like bad luck to say.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And by the way, I have more things. I want to take us into our first segment because I know that I'm terrible. I'm the absolute worst.
No, you're not. I am.
But no, this is the thing. This is why I
Let
wanted to
me
have
be
you
the
on.
terrible one.
Trust me. As I said, I've been in a relationship for long enough I'm fine with that.
Fine. You're right.
So the first segment is, it's called the Newly Friend Game. It's like the newlywed game, but we're friends.
Okay.
I am going to
what
ask
if I want to get married?
Listen, I have to ask Jess. I have to get permission. I think, and also, I don't know legally if you can.
I know. Well, I mean, the fact that I could get married at all was sort of a stretch, you know?
I didn't think you were going to say the word stretch. I think you were going to say sort of, and then I'm like, what is the word going to be? And then you said stretch. I'm like, oh my Lord. Sometimes I do different questions for each person. For us, I'm going to do the same question, but we're going to do you first.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask a question. You're going to write down your answer. I'm going to write down what I think is your answer. And then we'll do my answer. Okay. Question for you. And don't tell me, but you're going to write it down. What is your favorite legal movie? So any movie that has any sort of law elements in it, legal elements, court elements, whatever in it. What is your favorite movie that has that? Now, I'm going to write down what I think is your answer. I'm going to tell you, I did give this some thought. I'm going to be honest. I'm really between two for you.
Okay.
Did you already write yours down?
Yeah.
Oh, my Lord. I'm not going to get any points if I do this, but I'm just writing down my second one in case it's this. Putting it in little parentheses.
Can I write down what I think both are?
What I think you're going to say?
What's in your parentheses and what's your answer?
So you ready to flip on 3?
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
I knew I was right.
Holy crap.
I knew I was right. Yeah.
Holy crap. Okay, so for those who are not watching, I literally wrote Legally Blonde in parentheses, wrote My Cousin Vinny, and then I believe, did you change your answer to do that, or those are your actual answers?
No, you can watch the tape.
Yeah.
There was no erasing.
So you just knew I was going to say that, or do you actually love these two movies?
I knew you were going to say that.
Is Legally Blonde actually your favorite legal movie?
Sure. I don't like legal movies.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I didn't like the law.
I just figured that you might look. So for me, for example, I work in tech and I look for anything positive about tech to latch on to when I'm not thrilled in the moment with the work that I'm doing. So I thought you might have done the same. No.
I was a lawyer because...
So impressive what just happened.
Yeah, sorry.
I think it's amazing.
I was a lawyer because my dad would say, like, nobody can take your education away from you. And I was like, does anyone want it? Like,
who's robbing education?
Yeah. And I recognize that that's like a very privileged position and I'm very grateful for my education. That's true. But I just liked telling stories about my life. I like what I do now.
Yeah.
And I did that stuff because I was like good at thinking and writing and scared of blood. So that's it. There's nothing deeper in terms of like why I did it. Why I was good at the aspects I was good at was because I'm good at trying and I take seriously my responsibility if I'm in a position to do a good job most of the time anyway. So it's not like that was the thing that actually like propelled me out of law is because it was actually a very positive thing was interacting with various people. I have, a person I can think of when I was a law student, a person I can think of when I was in practice, and a person I can think of when I was teaching. And I could very clearly see that they loved it. And I was like, I understand loving a thing and I think I can get there, but like this ain't it for me. So, I mean, Legally Blonde is a great movie.
So good.
Yeah. My Cousin Vinny is also a great movie. I don't go there because of the court.
You go there because they're great movies.
Yeah. So I'm just being honest.
Well, I'll tell you this. I'm going to ask you, and I don't know if you're going to get it. What is my favorite legal movie?
Okay.
You can use similar answers if you want.
Okay.
Oh, that's a great guess.
I don't even know that movie.
So Liz yes,
is that Jim Carrey?
Yes.
Oh.
Well, I said Liar, Liar, and Liz guessed Philadelphia. Philadelphia, which by the way is an incredible film. And I cried multiple times watching that movie.
Oh, yeah. I think probably me too.
Well, I cry super easily. I'm a very easy cry.
Oh, yeah. We remember when we would share pictures of crying from musicals?
Yes, I sob.
Yeah. Me too.
I think I told you when I saw Dear Evan Hansen, I just was inconsolable.
Yeah.
I don't spend, how do I put this? I wouldn't say like I'm frugal, but I am like aware of prices.
Yeah.
So like, I was like, I'm not going to spend tons of money on a ticket to Dear Evan Hansen.
Yeah.
But I was dying to see it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, you know what? No.
Yeah.
Like you want to see this.
Yeah.
You don't spend money on anything. You're going to buy this ticket.
Yeah.
I buy the ticket. I want to tell you maybe within a day of me buying it, something like that. It was very close. I found out that it was Ben Platt's last week.
Oh.
But I already had the ticket.
Yeah.
And so I went and I got to see him do it.
Yeah.
And I went by myself.
Yeah.
I was inconsolable. That's the Newly Friend game. You did it.
Oh, that's it?
That's
just 2 questions?
Very easy.
Wow. Okay.
Do you feel good about that?
Well, I wish I got the second one right.
I'm going to give you 2 points on the first one. I've never seen that done in Newly Friend game history.
That's pretty good.
The other thing I was going to say to you is, I talk a lot. I'm a big talker. And then I remember someone said to me, there's a lot of power in economy of words. So then I spent all this time being like, okay, like how do I say less?
Yeah.
And then I'm doing it and I'm realizing, I'm enjoying this so much less.
Yeah. Well, I think it's about, because it's like everything is in steps, I think. It's not to say, at least for me, that saying less, omitting words is bad. It's just a question of when. And so it's not like you can skip to the part where you say the fewest possible words if the nugget of what it means to you is lost, and then the words themselves are kind of like empty. That's not going to work. Whereas economy of words, I think, comes at a point after you've found some of the parts.
And then I realized that maybe it wasn't about the economy of words. It was the breathing room that they didn't think, like someone said economy of words, meaning that. And, now where I'm at in this stage in the game is I don't worry about economy of words at all. What I do think about when I'm on stage is how do I give people the opportunity to register what I said, because I think fast and I speak fast. But how do I work in the ways to let people catch up with me and be there with me?
Totally.
And that to me, I think in my head, I go, maybe that's what they meant by economy of words.
I mean, I'm going to say I don't think they meant that. I think they, I think they mean fewer words.
Meant stop talking so much.
I do think so, but I don't think that it's to the exclusion of what you're saying. I think it can be both. It's like I have an acting teacher who is also my boss and amazing. And she talks about like acting is the 800 things, right? That you have to do effortlessly and under duress, even in oncoming traffic, God forbid, or you know what I mean? And I think stand-up is that as well. It's the 800 things. And so I don't know that it's just economy of words or it's just breathing room. It's just conversationality. It's just truthfulness, or it's just the laughs. It's all of those things. And the kind of like, fuck it mentality of like, and I'm just being so natural and in the moment and all that.
You work on the jokes, you try them out in all these different places. You work on them for you work on them with them. You do this, you do that. You think about all these different things. But then at a certain point, you just get up on stage and you forget all that. And you just kind of do what you do.
Right. But it is a result of you're preparing so much that your preparation shows up in spite of you.
Yes.
Yeah. So, you know, it's the same in sports. And I don't contend that I'm like there yet, but I'm certainly more there than I was when I would have high stakes opportunities and then bomb them.
Oh, I still have a few of those in me.
I'm sure I do too, but I'm saying like, you might bomb a lot, however many years in, but then at a certain point, you're just going to notice that you're like getting a new tape more frequently or having a great set more frequently. And at the very least, like not bombing really that much at all.
I went to Phoenix and no bueno. And what's interesting is I was doing this club and I wrap it up and let's be real. I mean, not a great situation. And what's interesting is right before I got on stage, the club owner goes, "Hey, you like interested in doing more weekends?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Cool. Well, you know what? If you just do me a favor, because I haven't seen a lot of it, just do your best material up there and I'll be watching and kind of figure it out." In my head, I'm like, this is what you decided to do right before I got on stage? This is what you wanted to tell me? Excellent. So I got on stage, bomb my face off. And what's crazy is, Jess happened to be there. And we go to get pizza between first and second shows. And Jess goes, I was right next to the sound booth. That's where they put me because, she's just sitting in the back. She goes, I heard the owner talking to his wife about you.
Oh.
And I go, oh, yeah. And she goes, no, not at all. He goes, this guy is really strong material.
Great.
But this crowd is just not his. And I go, huh. And Jess goes, what do you do with that as a comic? I go, kind of nothing. Like, it's great to know that someone can see through the bomb to see that the material's strong.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like there's not much to be done about that. It's just like an interesting thing to be like, oh, well, I bombed, but at least someone out there who knows comedy can say, yeah, you bombed, but I could tell that you're not terrible.
Well, and I would say based on the data that you've given me, I think you could do that same set and acknowledge your nervousness, even talk about it.
Yeah.
And the same material would have done fine.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I vacillate between calling it out and not calling it out. Sometimes I think about calling it out If a room feels weird, calling it out. If I'm feeling weird, calling it out. Yeah. Sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it's always the right move.
Yeah.
But I just think like based on the story that you just told, to me, it's a story that's more about you got nervous, you got in your head because he said do your best, which I understand.
Yeah.
But I don't think that would have had to repeat. Like now you know the way that you respond in that kind of a situation. And so like you can know your material is strong when somebody says do your best. And you don't have to contract.
Yeah, I think if someone were like, hey, listen, so you're in the final showcases of Just for Laughs.
Yeah.
I would probably get up in the middle of my joke, be like, I don't know why I worded it this way. Like that's what I'm that kind of self-saboteur where I'm like, why would I have said it like that?
Right. Yeah.
In the middle of a showcase.
I mean, I really relate to that, but I also feel thankful to have not gotten certain opportunities when I was likely to do that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And one of the things, like when I first started doing comedy, I really had this desire. It's kind of strange maybe, but so when I was teaching, I really like excelled very quickly. I started teaching when I was 27 years old. And the first article that I wrote was this like kind of home run in terms of the placement, which is the currency of research professors and whatever. And as a result of my state of mind, my kind of passion for the thing I was doing or whatever, I kind of was like too successful too soon. So when I started stand-up, I was like, I don't want my achievement and success in this thing to outpace my passion for it, because if that's something that I could learn from my previous life and career, I want to take that lesson. There are definitely moments that I feel like it's a blessing and a curse. You know, not to say that I control anything literally, but like I remember around like 2018, 19, I was like, how am I not getting into some of these festivals? Like it must be the case that I apply to these things in order to get rejected. Like maybe I want to get rejected because I am getting rejected from more even than I even remember applying to.
Oh yeah, I felt that way.
You know, and I got rejected from the Boston Comedy Festival the year before I won the Boston Comedy Festival. So like rejected entirely, won the next year.
That's crazy.
Sure. But I think that there's a way of looking at it like, see, they now know what they missed out on. Or I'm like, I'm so glad that like when I won, I posted my rejection from the year prior and had a caption about like, listen, for the 5 minutes that you're looking at my whatever, because I won this thing, know that you can get rejected and win the thing the next year. And if like there's something inspiring in that, then have at it because it's 100% true. And here are the receipts. And so I love stuff like that. And I don't want to say I want to be a late bloomer because I'm not trying to sabotage my career and my life.
Sure.
We have to support ourselves in the moment. And so I'm not thinking like, I'll get there when I'm 80 or whatever. But I also feel thankful not only for the experience that I've had before, but the perspective of not wanting stuff to happen just because it's fast. And just because it's sexy and exciting and it means that I'm validated. Because the second that I read too much into the validation, I'm like, I didn't learn my lesson from my previous career.
That is so true.
Yeah.
I actually want to use that to take us to our next segment, which is called Teach Me Something.
Josh and his segments.
He's terrible.
No, I love it. Yeah.
The next segment is called Teach Me Something. It could be anything you want. Yeah. It could take 10 seconds. It could take 10 minutes. Preferably not 10 minutes.
It's not going to take 10 minutes.
Hit me.
Okay, so this is the rule against perpetuities. It's a concept in property law, which is a subject that I taught. It's also a subject that I got a C in when I took property. Is it okay to look at you, Lucas? Okay.
Please.
This is like an audition. Liz Glazer, 5'5", LA local hire. Anyway,
That is such inside baseball humor that like I hope that a lot of people get that. That was very funny.
They will. It's an LA joke that is...
It's so good though.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, whatever. Anyway, the rule against perpetuity. So there's two things I want to teach you. Okay. One is really simple, which is it exists. It is notoriously hard to understand. And it is a relic in property law from feudal times that is still part of property law, like a lot of property law. And the reason for that is that land outlives people. And so like, if I want to give you title to like the building next door, it's risky, according to lawyers who are obviously very risk averse unless they quit to become comedians. But lawyers don't want there to be any ambiguity or doubt that title to that building, which has been there from God knows how long, is different from the title that was initially given to the building. So we still use a lot of the same words and the same concepts as from feudal times. Okay.
That's crazy.
So if you've understood everything I've said so far,
I think so.
You've learned a lesson. Okay. The particulars of the rule against perpetuities, which is the notoriously hard thing that every first year student learns in every law school around the country in property law class. Again, a class I got a C in when I was in law school, won an award for teaching it for 9 years. Okay. So if you're getting a C in property in law school and you think, I can't ever be a law professor, I can't teach property, you're wrong. I was a real estate lawyer and then I taught property. Okay. The rule against perpetuities is, and it makes no sense. I wrote it down before. No interest in land is good unless it must vest, if at all, not later than 21 years after some life in being at the creation of the interest. This makes no sense. There's 1,000 double negatives. Really, what this is intended to like do is to stop what we call dead hand control, which is like, because land outlives people, people can give their land at their death, but we don't want them to be able to give conditional gifts like, I'm giving this building to you, except here are the things that I want done with it and not done with it, etc. Or I'm giving this building to someone, but they have to get married in order for me to give the building to them, or they have to die and somebody else, they have to have a grandchild or something like this, because we don't want the dead person who gave the building to be able to continue telling us what to do, which you can do up to a point. And so this nonsense rule that is still taught in law schools is intended to stop that dead hand control. There's like a whole confusing section of every single property class in every law school in the country devoted to understanding what this means. It basically means that at the creation of the interest, so the day that you give the deed, the day that you die, if it's a will, right? At the creation of the interest must vest. It must become havable and ownable by another person. If it vests at all, which we don't have time to get into that, sorry, not later than 21 years after some life in being at the creation of the interest. No, this is the confusing part, because really what that means is literally every single person alive at the time the interest was created, 21 years after they die is the grace period for the vesting, if at all. We just have to know whether it vests or not. So we actually did cover if at all, if you're paying attention. What I would love is for this to go viral from like property law students. It's not gonna. After 21 years after everybody on the planet at the time the interest was created died. I think that's all we have time for, but that is the rule against perpetuities. So again, for Josh and anyone listening, in order for me to have completed the task of this segment, the rule against perpetuities exists, is taught at law schools, comes from feudal times, and makes no sense. And this is what it's called. And that's enough like cocktail party knowledge for you about law school.
You know what's so funny? And this is like not the purpose of what you're saying, but I was thinking so much about it.
I don't know what the purpose is.
No. When I got to school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I troubleshot a bunch of classes my freshman year. And one of them was microeconomics.
When you say troubleshot?
I literally just picked a bunch that were in a bunch of different things and just said, let me just...
Oh, so you took them?
Yes.
Okay.
And one of them was microeconomics, where I got a whopping, I believe, C+. Okay. And it was just like, not a good experience. It was a C or a C+, can't remember which. And
I also got that in microeconomics.
So after freshman year, my dad says to me, he goes, listen, I know you want to be a performer. I get that. So I would say if that's what you want to do, choose a major so that you can get a job outside of that. Solidify your plan B with something that is easily employable. He's like, so if it were me, I wouldn't major in movie studies, not easily employable. So I actually found value in what he said and was like, cool. So I swapped over to the business school. I get to the business school and they go, great. I had transferred in. I was accepted. It was fine. They go, so just so you know, here are the requirements. And I see on the list, microeconomics. And I go, oh, well, good news. I already took that in arts and sciences. They go, oh, we don't accept that one.
Oh.
I go,
Yeah.
They go, well, our art sciences, you can either do microeconomics 1 and microeconomics advanced, or you can do microeconomics in business school. And I go, well, clearly I'm not going to do the advanced one. I sucked at the first one. Let me just take the one in the business school. I got a C again, a second time. I took this class twice. I got a C both times. What you just described would be like me teaching microeconomics.
Yeah, exactly.
I cannot even fathom teaching microeconomics.
Well, it might make you better at microeconomics.
I never want to think about it again, but yes, it might. It
Yeah.
might. So I have two friends, two of my best friends are teachers. And I once had a conversation with them where I said, I don't think what I do as a comic is super, super, super foreign to what you do as a teacher. Because your job is to, in so much as we're both conveying information, your job is to convey information, but your job is to captivate and to entertain and to do all that while you're also saying what you want or need to say in that moment. I said, being a performer or a stand-up comic and being a teacher don't feel that different. And I'm curious for someone like you, because they felt that way also, but someone like you who's done both, do you see similarities?
Yeah, 100% I see similarities. One of the things that happened when I was teaching, and I was very insecure about it at the time, was like one of my colleagues was like, what are you doing in those classes? Like every time I walk by, it sounds like a comedy club. And
that's amazing.
Well, but I was really scared because I was a young professor.
Yeah.
And I was like, they're going to think that I am just telling jokes and I have to be more serious and I have to be better at my job and not make them laugh. And now, of course, I'm like, I didn't even record those sets. Like, what might I have been saying? And what sort of what property gold jokes did I miss out on? But I think that like laughter comes from many things, and one of them is understanding and relating.
When I think about what my comedy offers people, I think the ability to relate is quote unquote my biggest selling point. Is like I'm not doing comedy where I'm like, so when I was climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, so I think that piece is what it is for me, offering relatability to people.
Yeah, I offer nothing.
Oh, is that true?
No.
You're like, I get on stage and I just go, I'm going to talk to you in another language. Deal with it. That's where I'm at.
Probably. I have no idea what I offer, but
really?
That's, yeah.
Like if I were pitching you as a comic, I would actually also use the word relatable, but I would also talk about, I find you to be a very captivating storyteller, but I also happen to think that you find things, this is not going to be an eloquently worded sentence.
It's okay.
You find things that we all get annoyed by or think it funny or whatever that none of us actually say aloud because we don't think everyone else feels that. And you had a clip where you talk about how you read your sent mail more than you read your inbox. And Jess goes, oh, that is so me.
Yeah.
I stop the video and I go, that's what makes Liz so good because that's also me.
Yeah.
I also will reread things I've already sent.
Yeah.
And so do you.
That's fun.
We've dated for 3 years. We've never communicated that to each other.
Yeah. Thank you. I think I just look for my shame. That's what I look for. I'm just like, what am I too ashamed to say out loud? I'm going to say that. My favorite comedy starts from there.
Yeah.
It's hard and easy at the same time. It's easy because it's a bright line rule because shame. Shame is like pretty hard to not know.
Super familiar with it. Yeah.
Yeah. And
shame, right? Oh yeah, we met at a party once. Yeah, good stuff. Yeah.
He didn't talk to me. Even saying it aloud now, I'm like, maybe I should talk about getting a C in property. But I was also nervous I didn't talk about the C in property when I was teaching property because I'm like, because I'm like, they're not going to trust me. Why would they trust me? I got a C,
Interesting.
Yeah.
Check how deep-seated this is.
Okay.
One of the reasons that I had a decent college GPA, not a great one.
Yeah.
A decent passable GPA.
Yeah.
Is only because I was a minor in jazz studies and performance.
I love jazz.
Yeah.
My wife calls it hold music.
Oh my Lord.
But that's what I listen to on
I do also love hold music. Some hold music I think is incredible. The other day, I think Jess was on hold and I start singing along and she goes, what is wrong with you? I go, I love this one. This is a great one. So that really buoyed my GPA because I loved doing music theory. I loved doing all that stuff. So I worked really hard at that. And then I got A's in all my music classes. So it really buoyed my GPA. And I remember the other day I was like someone said, oh yeah, did you do well in school? I was like, well, the only reason I think that I would have never been hired had people known that the real reason my GPA was high was because of music. And I remember someone said to me, they're like, oh, they just gave out easy A's. I was like, oh no, but I really tried there. And they go, so just because,
you were fine.
So you really tried in classes, but because you in your mind, for whatever reason, are deeming them less valuable.
Fun.
Yeah. Oh my God, so much fun. They're like, you somehow have downgraded the value of those classes to someone else. So you're assuming that your GPA wasn't valid because you assume they don't think that the work you put in something that's not exactly related is worth the same.
Right. For those who watch this clip because of the rule against perpetuities, feel free in the comments if you have specific questions, because what I didn't do was give hypotheticals because we just didn't have the time.
No, of course not.
I mean, Josh wants to get to his segments. We've all been listening, but I just want to note that I can answer questions. Okay.
Yeah.
And there are good articles that are not written by even close to me, but I just want to, I feel like I want to tell them that.
Please. Okay. We will tag you.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah.
So they can really respond.
Somebody else is going to need to respond to this one.
It's all you. Now that takes us to our final segment. The final segment is a lightning round. It's fast questions. Doesn't have to be fast answers. So you don't have to rush through this.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
And by the way, I want you to know, so I keep this on an index card because it makes me feel like a late night talk show host. Oh. So I could be your Jimmy in this moment.
Okay.
I'm going to add a bonus one at the top. So you were a lawyer for 10 years?
Actually, Jimmy, it was 9 years.
Amazing. I'm so excited to have you here. All right, let's jump in. First question. What is a favorite ritual of yours? So mine is brewing tea.
This is a great question. I love when a question answers a thing in my head that I was looking for. Okay. I mean, I log in and I do my journal.
You journal?
Yeah. 750words.com. It's great. I've been using it since May 21st of 2013. So it's wonderful.
You just write 750 words and you're done.
Yeah. It's 3 pages like per The Artist's Way.
In The Artist's Way, and please correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes. You just the letter of the law is...
You keep writing, right? You just keep writing?
For 3 pages, yeah.
But you can do it virtually.
Well, according to Julia Cameron, no. So it is not the letter of Julia Cameron's law. Yeah.
Question 2. Do you have a running bit with a friend or partner that makes you laugh?
Yeah. My friend Shira and I, one is we think that food is best at room temperature. And so a running bit that we do, and we discovered this, like I've known Shira since we were 6 years old.
Sure.
And so, we talk a lot and we have for many, many years. At around like 10:30 in the morning, I'll say, taking out my lunch to warm it up just on the counter. And so that's one. The other, which is closely related, but a little distinct, is figuring out how much would a meal at home cost in a restaurant.
Oh no.
Yeah. The running bit is like Shira will be like, well, I'm having a salad with avocado and an egg. And I added like a little bit of kale chips or something like that.
Some sweet green action here.
Yeah. But I'm like, you have to take out a loan for that lunch because like every single thing would be extra.
Yeah.
It's not like we debate. One of us doesn't need to be right. We're both like, yeah. I mean, first of all, you're not getting out of anywhere for less than $12, right?
Absolutely
and
not.
So, and really that could go up with like after the pandemic, I feel like things got more expensive. So yeah, so that general neighborhood of stuff with Shira.
I love that. I love that. Shout out to Shira.
The best.
Can you do an impression of one or both of your parents?
Oh yeah. Elizabeth. I feel like mostly she's just saying, you cannot do better than Bloomingdale's at a sale. Would be
I think that's kind of true.
Yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah. My mom just has, I think, like sort of a low register. She sounds a lot like me, so it's like not a huge. You don't have
a super low register. I thought you were thinking like Elizabeth Holmes low register.
Oh,
like
I just usually right Elizabeth like that.
Yeah.
For some reason, I just keep saying my name,
which could be what she says.
She does a lot. My mom uses the word exorbitant.
I love that word.
Like, who uses that except for Toby Glazer?
Her name's Toby?
Yeah.
Love.
Yeah.
Love.
She's pretty great.
Toby?
Yeah.
Love. Question 4, and we kind of touched on this a little bit. Do you experience imposter syndrome? And if so, is there a particular moment that really sticks out to you where you experienced it?
Yeah, my whole career. Like
my adult life.
Well, but I don't have it now. I really don't. And okay, so a moment that I came to it a little bit was like, I remember when I was teaching, it was maybe around that time in my 20s that I like learned of imposter syndrome to begin with.
Sure.
And I was like, okay, fair enough, psychology, that this exists. But then I'm like, but what if I actually am an imposter and the only thing I'm not an imposter at is being an imposter?
That is some circular thinking. Yeah.
But the thing is that now I look back on my whole like first career in law and I'm like, yeah, I was right. I was an imposter. Not to say I didn't deserve the job or whatever, but I was completely an imposter in the sense that I wasn't into it. I put on like drag as a personality on a daily basis of being super into it. And that I think is really what imposter syndrome is. It's not like you aren't worthy as a person, you're not good enough. Like, first of all, I got a C in the class. If they knew that I got a C, I don't think they would have let me teach it. That's not to say they were right.
Yeah.
But I think it's true. I happen to have gone to a school because the next question is, but how did they not know that you got a C? And I have an answer to that question, which is I went to a school that had a mysterious grading system. Okay. So the University of Chicago Law School, it was so like you had to be in the circle to even know what it meant, despite the fact that there was a legend at the bottom of the transcript. And so the second that I started my interview process with the school that would end up hiring me, I sent them my transcript because I'm like, listen, let's just know what we're dealing with here.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to go so far down the road and then you're like, your grades are too low. Because my grades in law school were not great. They were like fine to bad. And so I was like, here you go. And they, you know, we went along with the interview process. I get the job. Then like maybe 1-2 years later, we're in a meeting about hiring someone else. And the person who was like really instrumental in getting me my job raised an objection about another candidate on the basis of that candidate's grades in law school, which led me to believe that that person did not understand my grades because why would it have been different for me versus this other candidate? And so I concluded that really the joke is on that person because if you're not astute enough to understand someone's grades, you get a bad grade in understanding grades, which is really the point of grades is just, can you understand something?
Which they couldn't,
apparently, or they were prejudiced by my charm or something, but I don't believe that to be the case.
That is the craziest story.
Yeah. I mean, there were so many aspects of my performance in my other job that I was like, no, I am an imposter. I'm completely imposting, you know, because I was going to say imposing, but it's not.
No. I love imposting.
Yeah.
Final question. I typically say, what is your favorite tea or comfort? But you drink a lot of tea. What's your favorite tea?
Tazo Wild Sweet Orange.
That sounds delicious.
It's amazing. It's basically hot juice, but it's still better at room temperature.
As everything
Shira knows.
Shira knows.
Yeah.
Liz, thank you so much for being on.
Thank you, Josh.
It was
Thank
such
you,
a pleasure.
Lucas.
We will tag you in everything.
Thank you,
Go
property
follow
students.
Liz, please. And if you have questions about the rule of perpetuities.
Against perpetuities.
Rule against perpetuities. I already lost it.
It's okay.
If you have,
it's okay.
If you have that, rule against perpetuities, you have questions, I want you to hit up Liz Glazer, make them hard and make them really time intensive
and bring
questions.
me to your law school to do stand up about the rule against perpetuities.
Bring us
go to my website. It's www.dearlizglazer.com. I'd love to come to your school and do stand up.
And I'll open for her. So come
That's
have
a
us.
good idea.
I'd happily do that.
Oh, that's a really good idea.
Happily do that. Come have us. I know nothing about legal. She does. Liz Glazer, thank you so much.
Thank you, Josh Lanzette.
That was Liz Glazer. You can follow Liz on Instagram and TikTok at Liz Glazer. You can follow her on Twitter at Elizabeth Glazer. Steep Conversations is produced and edited by Lucas Marshka. Our theme song and additional music are by Oliver Hymack. Our cover art was done by Neil Fraser with photography by Matt Mazisco. Social media by Dia Villegas. Please write a review and rate our podcast on Apple Podcasts and wherever else you can. You can send any questions, comments, newly friend game suggestions, or tea suggestions to steepcombos@gmail.com or tweet us at steepconvos. I'm Josh Lanzette, and you can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook at Josh Lanzette. We'll be back next week, so until then, happy steeping.